Scarface, and more specifically Tony Montana, have been a blueprint for style for decades, but now more than ever. There's so much overlap that I've seen in the film and in today's menswear as the trends keep moving towards a more refined and tailored look. Not only did the costume designer make arguably one of the biggest impacts for the future of men's fashion, but she also used the clothes to help tell the almost tragic story of Tony Montana. What I want to do is go through the costume design, show how they use clothes to tell their story, show the stages of Tony Montana's style, and talk about the correlation between film and modern day menswear. Scarface was released on December 1st, 1983 and was directed by Brian De Palma, written by Oliver Stone, with costume designer Patricia Norris pulling all the strings for the wardrobe and style. Other films she's worked on are 12 Years a Slave, Killing Them Softly, and Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the costume design. I feel like this movie is one of the biggest showcases and possibly one of the origins of the cocaine cowboy look that you may be familiar with. And that's because the movie was set in Miami in the 1980s, so it basically serves as the blueprint for how to dress like that. If I were to explain the cocaine cowboy look, I would say it consists of revered collar button-ups, often with prints, loose flowing dress pants, if you're a bit more formal, silky shirts under various different types of suits. Now throw in white rib tank tops, gold jewelry, pomade, and you got yourself a cocaine cowboy. Integrated into the 1980s cocaine style are these leftover trends from the 70s throughout the film, which I'll be touching on later in the video. So that kind of encompasses the general style of the film and more specifically of Tony, who we'll be taking a look at for the most part. When we first meet Tony, he has nothing to his name and is trying to get into America from Cuba. In this scene, he's wearing a pelican and floral printed shirt with a revered or camp collar, and that is with a white rib tank top, and on bottom he has a pair of black pants and a brown belt. So this is the first stage of his style, a lot more of a laid back look, and he's dressed down due to his lack of money and status. Now I think the rib tank top is a great example of Scarface being ahead of the curve in menswear. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen a movie pull off the white tank top quite like Scarface has, whether it's Manny with his white tank top and black pants, or his multicolored one with the red pants for that matter. And then you have Tony layering his camp collared shirt over his tank top. Now I see men copying these looks almost exactly because the white tank top can give an outfit a bit more detail compared to its regular undershirt counterpart, since the cut is a bit more intricate when worn underneath the shirt. Throughout the film we can see Tony, Manny, and many other characters wearing printed camp collared shirts, the next one looking more vibrant than the previous one. One of my favorite outfits from Tony is this red revered collared shirt that has this multicolored tiger print with these tan suit pants and black Cuban heel boots. Combination of the bold red shirt mixed with the cream pants creates a complementing outfit, and then adding the Cuban heeled boots is what kind of finalizes the look so perfectly in my eyes. But stepping away from Tony for a moment, this scene is a great example of the mixture of late 70s and early 80s trends with the plaid flared pants and long pointed collared shirts, which was heavily prevalent in the 70s, and then combine that with the 80s printed revered collared shirts and pastel palettes that some of these characters have. Going back to the camp collared shirts, there were so many good ones in the movie that I wish I could go over, but I think that would just end up being a 20-minute video on its own, especially if I were to talk about all the extras from the refugee camp, because there's so many of them and they all have various fits and looks to each one. But another one that I loved was Manny's extremely 80s button-up with a purple Palm Beach floral print that just screams cocaine in Miami, and that is paired with a pair of cream slacks and some loafers, which ends up making it a really nice, refined yet fun look, which is something I want to point out. You can have these elements of a more mature or refined look in your closet and still have it look fun and casual. Now this scene is a lot further into the film where Tony has fully changed, but we can see Manny staying grounded in his roots with his camp collared shirt, kind of showing that he still knows where he comes from. The revered collared shirt is one of the biggest instances of the overlap in menswear today. Now more than ever, camp collared shirts are a huge phenomena, replacing the traditional shirt collar button up. And I've also noticed that people are gravitating to printed shirts, and I think that they're using Tony as a blueprint for how to style them. Like this scene where he wears this cream, red, and green camp collared shirt with a white tank top, a pair of stonewashed Levi's, and a red bandana around his head. The bandana might be very LA, but this is a staple look for many in the menswear scene during the warmer months. There's a simplicity to the outfit without it looking boring, which is why so many guys opt for this look during the spring and summer. If you need inspiration on figuring out how you want to style your button-ups, I think Scarface is one of the places to go to. Reason being is because it shows you different ways of styling, regardless if you want a more casual look like Tony's Levi's outfit or something that's a little more formal with Manny and his cream slacks. I personally like to wear mine with some jeans or cargos, a pair of boots, whether they're cowboy or military boots. Sometimes I'll go a little bit more formal with it, throw a blazer on top. One person who I would like to highlight who's had his finger on the pulse of menswear and who I think is using Tony as a muse in some ways is Lawrence Schlossman, one half of the podcast, Throwing Fits. Here he's seen with this printed camp collar shirt over a white tank with some medium wash straight jeans. Not too far out from the look we just saw Tony wearing. And as we go through the evolution of Tony's style, we'll see how people like Lawrence are using him as inspiration. After Tony barely makes it out of the motel, he meets the boss, Frank, where he's seen wearing this three-piece navy pinstripe suit, single-breasted with a notched collar and shoulder pads. Now under that suit is this white and baby blue printed shirt. Fun fact, according to one source, Tommy Velasco, the Paramount tailor at the time, made all the suits for Scarface, and you will soon realize how talented this man was. There's such a great variety that we're going to end up highlighting. This is what I would consider to be his next stage. Tony's now coming into a little bit of money and starting to show it off by wearing these suits with his shirt collar layered outside the jacket. And notice how long those collar points are. So this style choice might have been copied from when Tony first met Omar and Waldo, since they styled their outfits the same exact way with their baby blue and peach suits. So it appears Tony might have been using them as a muse during his start when he was starting to get money. Also, I want to add that the shoulder pads in this film haven't reached peak 80s yet, but you can still see the beefy 80s shoulder pad look. I will say it's not for everyone, but if you can pull it off, it looks awesome. I have a few suit jackets that have shoulder pads, and it's a great way to get a little bit of a different silhouette. I usually like to wear my suit jackets as sort of like my outer piece instead of wearing a light coat. This is the same scene where Tony meets his love interest, Elvira. Elvira has a 70s Halston influence throughout the film, and that was deliberate. She's wearing silky dresses and jumpsuits with these deep plunging necklines in a range of colors, but nothing too flashy. Her minimal style showed the difference between her and Tony because she came from wealth and had been around money, so much so that she didn't need to show off to anybody. But on the other hand, we have Tony, who wanted everything lavished because it's what he didn't have before. The Chic League theorized that Norris gave her this 70s Halston style because the clothes were barely there, and as a person, Elvira was barely there. It always seemed that she was either somewhere else mentally or at least wanted to be somewhere else. I tend to think Elvira is probably the best example of how Norris used the costume design to explain who her character was. Throughout the rest of the film, there are multiple notched collar outfits that are amazing, like this white three-piece suit that Tony wears with his pants flared out and black button-up. Again, another element of the 70s with those flared pants that have made a comeback the last couple of years now. I've been seeing a lot of people on the streets and on Instagram with a similar styling of their suit jackets and their shirt collars layered outside of the jackets. Just another example of the correlation between the film and the movie. Personally, I've been wearing my blazers with a pair of jeans or some corduroys and then pairing it with some sort of casual button-up or even just a simple t-shirt. In fact, the other day I actually wore this houndstooth jacket with a western button-up graphic shirt and a pair of ripped-up light wash jeans. I love this outfit because, like I said, it's a lot more of a refined look, but the colors and shirt selection really make a difference and make it fun. Now, I think going all out and combining both elements from Tony and wearing a blazer over a camp collar shirt would also be a great look. You can actually see Pig doing that here, but unfortunately we only get a look at it from the back. We're finally at Tony's final form. This is where he's his most flashiest, opting for elegant double-breasted suits, silky shirts, and tons of jewelry. The jewelry is actually another thing that Scarface and Tony were ahead of the curve on. Tony's not only wearing jewelry, but he's also layering it, something that became very popular for men's fashion the past, I'd say, 5 to 7 years, and it's kind of wild to think Tony was doing this in the 80s. I know I'm late to the game, but I've been experimenting with layering necklaces, and it can be a real game changer when you have these different lengths and pendants that allow you to play around and create new looks. I think that Tony paved the way for men to be willing to put on jewelry like this and experiment with layering, which is a net positive, obviously. And branching off of that, something that I noticed in Scarface was the femininity seen within the men, which was really interesting. Tony seemed to be so confident in himself that he's willing to be more daring than the average man. And examples of femininity in Tony's wardrobe was his sheer pleated white shirt, the jewelry selection he had, and this scene where not only Tony but Manny are wearing these deep plunging tight-fitting V-neck shirts that look great on them. And not that they look the same, but they kind of remind me a lot of the Rick Owens V-necks that he's been selling for a while now. Then of course we have Alex wearing a sheer white collared shirt as well, which again, I think is very provocative for the 80s. But going back to the double-breasted suit, one of my favorites that Tony wears is this magnificent cream pinstripe suit with wide peak lapels over a red button-up, brown Cuban heels, and a ton of jewelry. Now, I would say this is one of those iconic looks that everyone recognizes and associates with Scarface and Tony Montana. There's something really unique about having a cream or white pinstripe suit. I rarely see something like that, but Tony pulls it off effortlessly. And just like Tony, Manny is also elevating his wardrobe with his cream striped suit with a lavender silk shirt. Those silk shirts really give another layer of extravagance to the outfit. I actually have a off-white or goldish silk shirt. I don't think I've ever worn it with a suit jacket, but now watching this scene again, I might have to try it. Even though I think a double-breasted suit jacket would be considered more advanced for everyday people, I see so many people wearing them in an everyday and casual sense. Going back to Lawrence, I love how he's incorporated suit jackets, like pairing his pinstripe jacket with a Western button-up, or how he paired this one with a knitted polo and black jeans. Personally, I would have loved to have seen this outfit with a pair of straight leg, semi-light wash jeans. I think it would have been such a good combination for the pinstripe suit. I actually just bought a peak lapel suit, pinstriped as well, recently, so hopefully I'll be able to style it with the right pair of jeans before it gets too blistering hot. Now, the only time we see Tony ever wearing a coat was with this black wool notched collar overcoat that hits just at his knees over the iconic three-piece dark navy chalk stripe suit with wide peak lapel, a white French cuff button-up, and a red tie. The suit is probably the most notable from the film, and whenever people wear a suit like this, I always think of this movie. It is peak Tony and probably his best look. I love everything about this ensemble. Layering a suit jacket underneath an overcoat, the pinstripe double-breasted suit. I love the wide peak lapels. The cut is so beautiful. That collar is so beautiful. And then the detail of French cuff on the shirt that pops out from the sleeve. It's magnificent. Scarface is a great lesson on how to bring a more refined look to your wardrobe, especially if you're wearing streetwear and want to broaden your horizons. I do want to drive home though that you don't have to look formal with these pieces. You can wear a blazer or a suit jacket and still make it look casual. Most importantly, you should be experimenting with how you want to implement these pieces into your wardrobe. The movie is an excellent example of where menswear is today, and I think a lot of people have been using Scarface as an inspiration when dressing themselves, and I think if you are inclined to, I think you should too. Not only that, but Norris and Velasco did a phenomenal job on creating Tony, because without some of these suits, who knows if he would have been as iconic as he is today. The way she was able to explain the characters through their clothes was well executed, and I wish more costume designers would put as much thought as Norris did into their characters. Let me know what you guys are going to take from the film, or if you're not really feeling it. While you're commenting down below, please like the video, subscribe, and share it with a friend. I'm on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. It's Danverhey, Danverhey. It's all linked down below, and as always, thanks for watching.